Hello everyone, welcome to the video, and today we're going to be going over one of the best Black Flame builds that you can have in Elden Ring. So there are going to be a couple variants of this build, and I'm going to go over all of them in this video. However, before we get into the video, I would like to ask you guys to drop a sub and a like on the video if you enjoyed the build, or if you thought that it was pretty cool. As well as if you guys need any help getting any of the items required for this build, or any runes or anything like that, you can go to aoa.com. And you can use code SARE for 3% off. I'll put the link in the description, and you can grab whatever item you are missing. But with that being said, let's get right into the video. So the first thing we always talk about is the gear of the build. So for the first variant, we are using two Flame Art, which is the Black Flame Tornado. We are using two of them on the Godskin Peelers. This weapon actually comes default with the Black Flame Tornado. However, I put the weapon art on because it actually makes it scale with fire, and since a lot of the damage of this build goes through fire, we're going to have various buffs on that are going to make fire damage increased. So it's definitely important to actually get the Ash of War and put it on the weapon even though it comes default with it, because you won't get that fire scaling if you don't do that. As for the seal, we're using the Godslayer seal. This gives us a nice little boost to the Black Flame incantations. And for the fashion, we're using the Godskin Apostle robe with the Knights Cavalry arms and greaves. This is going to make some pretty cool fashion. You could do other things. This isn't ideal, but it looks awesome in my opinion. For the talismans, we are running Phlox Canvas Talisman, Shard of Alexander, followed by the Ritual Sword Talisman. You could actually swap this one out if you don't want to be 100% HP all the time, which could be a little bit tedious, and you can use something like the Godfrey Icon, which will boost all of the charged incantations, or you could use the Claw Talisman since we're using Twin Blades. The jumping attack for that is very good. And the last one is the Fire Scorpion Charm. For our Wondrous Physic, we have the Flame Shroud and Crack tier and the Opaline Bubble tier. This gives us a lot more fire damage. And then for our stats, we are level 150, 45 Vigor, 30 Mind, 30 Endurance, 20 Strength, 22 Dexterity, 10 Intelligence, and 60 Faith. For the incantations of the build, we have Flame Grant Me Strength and Golden Vow as our two buffs. Then we have the Black Flame Fireball, followed by a few other Black Flame incantations, which you actually don't really need. You're just going to need the Fireball, and the one after that, I forget the name of it. But that's pretty much it for the gear of the build. There is a couple substitutions you can make, however. One of them being, if you don't want to use the Black Flame Tornado art, and you want a little bit more mobility and a little bit less stagger, you can easily go with the Godslayer Greatsword. I found that the Godslayer Greatsword might just be a little bit better in PvP, whereas you are able to pull off some pretty cool 1v3s with the Black Flame Tornado weapon art. I found that the animation was just overall a little too clunky in PvP and kind of hard to get off. However, since you get Hyper Poise in the with the Godslayer Greatsword, it's definitely nicer to have, especially on boss fights like Malekith, where he doesn't really stand still for very long. But if there's big boss fights where you have, like any dragon boss fight or any boss fight where the enemy is kind of stationary, large, and doesn't move around a whole lot, Black Flame Tornado is going to absolutely destroy them. It does over 8k usually if you have the right talismans on, which is probably going to be the Ritual Sword Talisman. That one's definitely going to do the most damage. But if you have that talisman on, you can do like around 8,000 damage, which is pretty incredible. You're going to be able to kill most of the bosses in the game with this weapon art. But like I said, if you have a little bit of trouble with the fact that you're locked in the animation, you don't even have to use the weapon art. You can just use the jumping L1 attack, because Twin Blades have such an amazing moveset in general, and the damage from both of these combined is actually pretty incredible. So overall, you have a lot of options with this build, and that's something that I wanted to really do for this build, is I wanted to make it versatile and viable for whatever your needs are. So depending on what you are using and what kind of playstyle you're going for, you're going to want to switch around the talismans a lot. You can go more of a caster build, but what I noticed was that the Black Flame incantations weren't very strong. However, if you use the Godskin Noble armor, I think that's the bigger guy, there's a downside to it. The armor is incredibly ugly and you have like giant tits on your back, but it gives you a 20% bonus to one of the incantations. It's the other incantation I have. Like I said, I forget the name, but it does incredible damage with the Godfrey Icon and all of the other talismans that boost the fire damage and stuff. You will be able to do pretty incredible damage, as well as if you get a second Godslayer seal, you can definitely run a caster build on this because you'll be getting the bonus damage from that as well. But you'll pretty much just be relying on a few incantations, and whereas it will look really cool, which is one of the main reasons I made this build and the fashion for this build, it's not going to be 100% viable. So I feel like the kind of mix between the caster and the sword build was definitely a little bit better. But like I said, you can go in whatever direction you want. You can use a couple different weapons, and no matter what, the build is pretty sturdy. So that's pretty much it for today's video. If I hadn't mentioned before, if you guys have any specific builds you want to see, you can just go ahead and comment them below, and whichever one gets the most likes, or if I just see a build in there that I like a lot, particularly even if it doesn't get the most likes, I will make that build. So whatever you want to see, just comment below, and I will try to make a video on it. But that's pretty much it for today, so thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next time.